Hello, my name is Dr. Diwan S. Raja. Today I will discuss about the fetal circulation. I will also discuss about the changes that occurs in the fetal circulation after birth. So the fetus is dependent for oxygen and nutrition on the placenta. So we have to know that fetus is dependent for oxygen and nutrition on the placenta. Okay. The placenta is a discoid structure that is implanted in the posterior wall of the uterus near the fundus. The fetus is connected to the placenta by the umbilical cord. So we have to know placenta is a disc-like structure, and from the placenta will get the umbilical cord, and the umbilical cord connects the placenta to the fetus. In the umbilical cord we get one umbilical vein and one umbilical vein and two umbilical arteries. Two umbilical arteries. Initially, during the embryonic life, the embryo has two umbilical veins, then the right umbilical vein disappears. So, throughout the fetal life, one umbilical vein, that is the left umbilical vein, and two umbilical arteries, left umbilical artery and the right umbilical artery. These structures are held together in a cord-like fashion by the Wharton's jelly. We call it umbilical cord. In the fetus, the lung is inactive. Lung is filled with fluid, mostly the amniotic fluid, and there is no respiration during the intrauterine life. And also intestine has nothing to collect nutrition for the liver through the portal vein. So for nutrition, the fetus is also dependent on the placenta. So if we go to the fetal circulation, then this is the placenta and this is the umbilical cord. This is the umbilical cord. Okay, we have one umbilical artery. We have one umbilical vein, not artery, umbilical vein, and two umbilical arteries. Okay, and the umbilical vein is drawn here with a red color. Idea is that it is rich in oxygen. The umbilical arteries are blue color. It indicates that they are carrying deoxygenated blood. Okay, so oxygenated and nutrition rich blood from the placenta reaches the fetus via the umbilical vein. So we have one umbilical vein and it carries oxygen-rich and nutrition-rich blood to the fetus. Okay. Then what happened? It is going to the liver here. Here in the liver we have multiple structure is in relationship to the liver. This is the inferior vena cava, IVC, inferior vena cava. This is the ductus venosus, ductus venosus. Okay, and this is our umbilical, this is the umbilical vein, umbilical vein, umbilical vein. Okay, so about half of the blood bypasses the liver. How? Liver via the ductus venosus and enters the inferior vena cava. So blood is coming through the umbilical vein, and around half of the blood bypasses the liver, go to the inferior vena cava. Half of the blood is distributed to the liver. Okay, so liver also reaches half of the blood. Half of the blood go to the inferior vena cava, and inferior vena cava will direct the blood to go to the right atrium, then through the foramen ovale, and it will go to the left atrium. Go to the left atrium. This is left atrium. Okay, we got that. So what is ductus venosus? Ductus venosus is a blood vessel that connects the left branch of the portal vein and the umbilical vein to the inferior vena cava. So this is the ductus venosus. This is the portal vein. This is the portal vein. Portal vein. This is the umbilical vein, inferior vena cava. So left branch of the portal vein to the inferior vena cava, and the ductus venosus also receives the umbilical vein. Okay, blood entering the right atrium from the inferior vena cava bypasses the right ventricle, as the lung is not yet functioning. As I discussed previously, lung is containing fluid and lung is not taking part in respiration. So from the right atrium, blood will go to the left atrium via the foramen ovale. So what is foramen ovale? Foramen ovale is what? Foramen ovale is a gap in the septum secundum. So we have foramen ovale. We have foramen ovale, and foramen ovale is the gap in the septum secundum. Okay, foramen ovale, a gap in the septum secundum. Okay, so that will help in the formation of the interarterial septum. This is the foramen ovale. this part. This part is the foramen ovum. Okay, we got that. Blood from the superior vena cava enters the right atrium, passes to the right ventricle and moves into the pulmonary trunk. Most of this blood enters the aorta via the ductus arteriosus. So this is our inferior vena cava opening into the right atrium. This is a right atrium. This is superior vena cava opening into the right atrium. Blood from the superior vena cava go to the right atrium, go through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle. From right ventricle, blood will go to the pulmonary trunk. From pulmonary trunk, blood will go to the ductus arteriosus, another bypass channel. Okay, so this is the ductus arteriosus. This is the ductus arteriosus. Okay, so blood from the superior vena cava reaches the right atrium. From right atrium, it goes to the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve or right atrioventricular valve. Then from the right ventricle, blood is going through the pulmonary trunk to its bifurcation. We have a communication from the bifurcation of the pulmonary trunk to the arch of the aorta, that is called ductus arteriosus. This is the ductus arteriosus. So we got foramen ovum that is present in the interatrial septum. Okay, that represents the location for the, that represents the gap in the septum secundum in the interatrial septum. Then we also discussed the ductus venosus. Ductus venosus connects the left branch of the portal vein to the inferior vena cava. It also receives the left umbilical vein, only one umbilical vein here, that is connected here. So this is ductus venosus. Blood is going to the right atrium. That blood go through the foramen ovum. There is a gap in the interatrial septum, that represents the gap in the septum secundum. Okay, so blood from the right atrium go to the left atrium. Okay, from left atrium, blood go to the left ventricle. This is left ventricle, left ventricle, left ventricle. Okay, from left ventricle, blood should go through the ascending aorta, arch of the aorta, then it will go to the systemic circulation. Okay, so we got ductus arteriosus that connects the, what is ductus arteriosus? Ductus arteriosus connects the bifurcation of pulmonary trunk to the arteriosus. This connects the bifurcation of the pulmonary trunk to the arch of the aorta. Okay, we got that. Okay. So we got the partially oxygenated blood in the aorta returned to the placenta via the paired umbilical arteries. So here in the aorta, blood is returning to the placenta. Okay, placenta through the umbilical arteries. Umbilical arteries are branches of the internal iliac artery. So the umbilical arteries are carrying deoxygenated blood to the placenta. So let us summarize again. Oxygen rich, nutrition rich blood from the placenta going to the liver. It bypasses most of the liver, around half of the blood in the umbilical vein go to the inferior vena cava through the ductus venosus. Ductus venosus is a communication between the left branch of the portal vein to the inferior vena cava. Okay, so half of the blood in the umbilical vein is going to the inferior vena cava. Then inferior vena cava blood will go to the interarterial septum. There is a gap called foramen ovale, and inferior vena cava during fetal life has a valve system here, one valve system here, valve of inferior vena cava that guide the blood of the inferior vena cava to go through the foramen ovale to go to the left atrium. This is a shunt from right to the left. Okay, from the left atrium, blood should go through the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve or left atrioventricular valve to the left ventricle. From left ventricle, blood should come out through the ascending aorta, arch of the aorta. Okay, some blood is returning to the heart. We'll say a significant part of the blood from the head and neck and the upper extremity are returning to the heart through the superior vena cava. This blood mostly goes to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, we have the pulmonary trunk. This is the pulmonary trunk. Pulmonary trunk. Okay. So from the pulmonary trunk, we have two branches: left pulmonary artery, right pulmonary artery. At the bifurcation of the pulmonary trunk, there is a communication between the bifurcation of pulmonary trunk to the arch of the aorta. This is the arch of aorta. So connection between the bifurcation of the pulmonary trunk to the arch of the aorta is the ductus arteriosus. So from the right ventricle, blood is going to the ductus arteriosus to the aorta. Most of the blood, some blood go to the lung via the left pulmonary artery, right pulmonary artery. Okay, so idea is that to bypass the lung, to bypass the liver. Okay, so that most of the blood should go to the systemic circulation to help in the development and growth of the head, neck and the limbs of the fetus. Okay, so this is the fetal circulation. So we have shunt, right to left shunt, from left atrium, blood going to the right atrium. From the right atrium, blood is going to the left atrium. This is right to left shunt, one. Okay, so we got that. Then another shunting here is from the bifurcation of pulmonary trunk to the aorta. Again, it bypasses the lung. That is another right to left shunt. Okay, so we got that. So this is the prenatal circulation or fetal circulation. So what is our highlight? Highlight: placenta, one umbilical vein. This is the ductus venosus. Then there is an active valve in the inferior vena cava that guide the blood to go to the foramen ovale. Foramen ovale going from the right atrium to the left atrium. So this is a right to left shunt. So from left atrium, blood is going to the mitral valve or left atrial valve to the left ventricle, coming out through the ascending aorta, arch of the aorta. Okay, this is one. Another way, from the blood returning to the heart to the superior vena cava, that is draining blood from the upper part of the body, from the head and neck and the upper limb, going to the right atrium. From right atrium, blood go through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle, then pulmonary trunk, then bifurcation of pulmonary trunk. Most of the blood go from the bifurcation of pulmonary trunk to the arch of the aorta. Some blood go through the left and right pulmonary arteries. So blood is present in the descending thoracic aorta is mostly deoxygenated, and nutrition poor blood is returning to the placenta through the internal iliac they are returning to the placenta via the internal iliac artery and the umbilical arteries. Umbilical arteries are the branches of the internal iliac artery. We got the prenatal circulation. Now we'll look for the postnatal circulation. What changes occurs after birth? We'll go to the postnatal circulation. Now, postnatal circulation. That means we have some changes after birth. What happens? As the pulmonary respiration begins at birth, pulmonary blood pressure falls, causing blood from the pulmonary trunk to enter the pulmonary arteries. Okay, so lung is present here. Lung will be now functional. We'll have lung will be functional lung. So baby is born, umbilical cord is cut, baby is separated from the placenta, placenta is separated from the mother's uterus. Okay, so newborn baby should breathe by himself or herself. So what happened? As the pulmonary respiration begins at birth, pulmonary blood pressure falls, causing blood from the pulmonary trunk to enter the pulmonary arteries. The left pulmonary artery, right pulmonary artery. Foramen open and ductus arteriosus close. So the foramen open will be closed here. Now foramen open will become fossa ovalis. Okay. Ductus arteriosus will also close. Okay. So this will be closed. Now it will be ligamentum arteriosum. So ductus arteriosus will become ligamentum arteriosum. Ligamentum arteriosum. How about ductus venosus? The ductus venosus will become the ligamentum venosum. Ductus venosus become ligamentum venosum. Okay. So foramen open, ductus arteriosus close, eliminating fetal right to left shunts. The pulmonary and systemic circulation are now separate. As the infant is separated from the placenta, umbilical arteries occlude, except the proximal part of the umbilical artery. So what will happen to the umbilical arteries? Okay, umbilical arteries, they will be the medial umbilical ligaments. Medial umbilical ligaments. After birth, ligaments. Okay, and also they will give rise to the formation of superior vesical artery. Okay, so as the infant is separated, we will seeing multiple changes. Now liver will reach the nutrition rich blood from the intestine of the newborn by means of the portal vein. So we got changes in the fetal circulation after birth. We have umbilical vein that will be also shrink. So umbilical vein will be the ligamentum teres hepatis. Umbilical vein, this will be the ligamentum teres hepatis. We can also call it round ligament of the liver. Round ligament of the liver. So we got multiple changes here. We got this will be the round ligament of the liver. This will be the ligamentum venosum. This will be closed, foramen ovale will be closed. Valve of inferior vena cava will be atrophied. Okay. Valve of inferior vena cava. Valve of inferior vena cava will be atrophied, or even it may disappear totally. Okay. So we got that. Ligamentum arteriosum will be closed, we'll get ductus arteriosus will be closed, we'll get the ligamentum arteriosum. So we got multiple changes. So now we have some highlights. What are the derivatives of fetal circulatory structure? Fetal structure, ductus arteriosus, what was it? This was the connection between the bifurcation of the pulmonary trunk to the arch of the aorta. It will be ligamentum arteriosum. Foramen ovale was a gap in the interatrial septum. Okay, so it will be closed. Now we'll get the fossa ovalis or oval fossa. Ductus venosus, okay, it was connecting the umbilical vein, the portal vein and the inferior vena cava. It will be ligamentum venosum. Umbilical vein will be the round ligament of the liver, also called ligamentum teres hepatis. Umbilical arteries will be the medial umbilical ligament, and we may get some superior vesical arteries. Okay, so that's all for today. So we got the prenatal circulation, we got the changes in the fetal circulation after birth. Have a nice day. Bye now.